Good morning, and welcome to today's webcast, Grow Your Business. Signs it's time to leave spreadsheets. Before we begin, I'm going to play a brief housekeeping video.
Welcome, and thank you for viewing our webcast series. Before we begin, please keep the following in mind. You can customize how you view our presentation and interact with the presenter. For better viewing, close all other applications and turn up your speaker volume. You can adjust window size and placement or enter full screen mode using the controls at the top right of the window or dragging the bottom right-hand corner to resize. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a series of icons that relate to a different aspect of our session. You can download a PDF of today's slides from the Slide Deck and Handouts widget. You can ask questions by typing in the Q&A window and clicking Submit. We'll do our best to answer all questions or follow up via email. If you experience technical difficulty, refresh your browser by hitting the F5 key. This presentation is not legal, investment, or accounting advice. We encourage you to seek the counsel of a professional service provider to apply this content to your specific circumstances.
I'm pleased to introduce today's presenters from Moss Adams, Kristi Armijo, Senior Manager, and Brian Favorat, Senior Manager. Kristi manages cloud-based corporate performance management and business intelligence platforms. She implements CPM solutions that enable businesses to gain enhanced analytics and business insights by streamlining financial planning and analysis processes, automating data collection and consolidation, and providing real-time visibility to key performance metrics. Brian has experience selecting, maintaining, and deploying financial system solutions and provides management consulting services to public, private, and nonprofit clients. He implements corporate performance management solutions that allow for enhanced analytics and business insights. With that, I'll turn it over to Kristi to get our presentation started today.
Beautiful. Thanks, Chad. All right. So today's topic at hand is we're going to just talk things about challenges with spreadsheets, management insight solutions, a value-based approach, and we'll conclude today by providing valuable insights and actual takeaways for you. So what are the signs and when is it time to move on from spreadsheets to help grow your business? Here are some challenges that we're seeing within the marketplace. Are there one or more on this list that you're seeing as obstacles within your planning process? You know it's like working in spreadsheets, but what we want to call out here is an area where you can improve your efficiency while encouraging your managers to be more engaged in the planning process. So let's just take a quick run through process centralization. If you are on spreadsheets and you want to get your budget managers involved, then you probably have a template that you send out, they fill it in, they send it back, and you're almost there, right? Like the process is almost done. But in reality is they might have changed some of the formulas or how the spreadsheet is set up. So now the finance team is coming together and having to consolidate that and make all the changes necessary. And sometimes during that process, it shifts from being the budget managers owning the numbers to the finance team owning the numbers. But having a solution that everyone is using at the same time will drive a deeper engagement. So the same concept really it does apply to version management. In version management, you're sending out a spreadsheet. They're filling it in, they're sending it back. But what happens if there's some data that's missing or they need to update the data? So now they're sending you're sending the file back to them, they're sending it back to you. And during this process, you have to know, do I have the right version, the right spreadsheet, or is it a different one? And so now you're dealing with a version management spreadsheet. And there can be multiple spreadsheets that are out there with different team members filling it in that you're trying to consolidate into one. So I know you know this world, but when you start to call these out and they start to all add up, then the level of efficiency that can be gained by a central solution to manage all those different spreadsheets start to add up to a lot of value within your organization. And part of that value is getting your team engaged in the process. So when they're engaged, they're going to own their numbers and they're going to be more accountable to them versus if the finance team is being seen as the ones owning the numbers. So you can go through a similar process with scenario planning and comparing different scenarios. Do you have multiple spreadsheets that you're trying to get everything to line up into one? Are you having to write formulas, again, to get all this data to align in a way that is where they can report against this? All these individual pieces, they start to add up to being a lot of extra time. But putting that aside for a moment, let's talk about rolling forecast. So rolling forecast is you have your planned budget, but can you take that planned budget and start forecasting 3 months ahead? Or can you take actuals and start putting that part of the process so you can have like a 3+9 on your forecasting side? What if the team starts needing to make changes to this? Again, we're looking back to that version management. Do you need to send it back? Do they need to make changes? Do we need to do consolidation? All of this is adding up over and over for you on time. So while I know you're familiar with this topic, it is worth noticing that there's numerous ways in which automated solution can significantly improve your efficiency. One of them is going to be deeper engagement that ends up driving value and decision making. So we're going to talk about the value of timing and when that happens and why it's so important. The word agile really talks about having the best information at hand to make a decision. So when you're making informed decisions in a timely manner that's going to align with your core strategy and goals is contingent upon having the necessary information and which is a critical component of the process. So what we're talking about here is, where is the data? Is it in a spreadsheet? Is it in a shared file? Are there multiple spreadsheets out there? Where are they at, and when are you going to get them? Is it in an email? Are you trying to remember which email that was in? And all of this, trying to get the data and get to the data can be very time consuming. And one of the problems if something is too time consuming is you might go based on what you remember, or it might cause the team to be less engaged in the process. And what that really can be is dangerous for your planning process. As you recall things in memory, you might be influenced by your impressions. So it is possible that your recollection is not going to be entirely accurate. So when you're trying to get all this data into one, are you remembering data from the first version, the second version? Maybe it's a conversation that you had with the team or from an email. But again, it might not be the final version that was sent out that you're trying to kind of go back to. So again, this is another very dangerous point of it all. What if you don't have good access to being able to compare your variance, your plan versus actuals? Or more importantly, are you not seeing trends within actuals because you can't compare it to budget or to a forecast? Being able to see developing trends with actuals versus forecast, or a combination of the two, means that you not only need to have like a spreadsheet with the planning data, but you also need to incorporate it with the updated version with actuals. Again, this can be very time-consuming, getting all this information to get together and put it in a way that is tangible for your team to be able to see the data, understand the data, and make decisions. And when we're really looking at that, we want to kind of be agile in your business and decision-making process. So soon you're adding up these bullet points, and pretty soon you're at the point to say, if I was on an automated solution, can we consolidate our data from multiple systems or sources while getting the team more involved at the same time with the same information? And that's what I mean by agile. Another word is nimble. So if you think about having the information at your fingertips, easy access to data in real time, that you can make a decision about what you're facing at that moment. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put a picture to the words that we've been describing and kind of a side-by-side comparison. Having side-by-side comparisons is super helpful because we're looking to say, what is the trend? What do we expect and what is actually happening right now? So let's say you have a number. If you have a number by itself, it's not going to give you a lot of story behind it. It's not going to give you any context around it or tell you anything. So for example, if you take expense number and it's an actual, it comes in. If you can take that one number and compare it to your forecast or a budget, now you're adding some context and meaning around it. But what if you can compare that data and say like, okay, this is our actuals, this is to budget, this is what our reforecast is. Now you're starting to gain additional context around what these actual numbers are. Maybe it's a timing issue, or maybe it's a trend. And being able to have access to this information and having meaning around these numbers is going to help you drive decision-making within the organization. It's about looking at data and saying, where do we expect to go and what's happening now? Having an automated system that consolidates all the necessary information, such as your original plan and expected outcomes into one place, will allow you to make decisions and move forward in a timely manner, which is when you're already compressed with time, being able to get data and have access to it within a timely manner has a huge ROI on it. The other thing that you can be able to do is be able to run reports to have trends and actual to forecast all in one page. So you're not having to go back to specific owners who own the spreadsheets to distribute this information. Can they get access to it at their fingertips at their own convenience? When we're talking about developing trends, we don't want to get to the point to say, oh, hey, look, there's a trend that was happening over here. But what you want to do is start getting to the point to say, hey, there are trends happening here. And when you see a trend, is there something that you can do about it? That is going to be more valuable than being like, hey, there was a trend. We weren't able to react to it. And now there's some implications within the organization. So alternatively, if you can start seeing these trends and start reacting to them, then you're making decisions in a decision-making window to get in front of them versus having to react to the trend before it's too late to where you can do any countermeasures to those trends. Let's get down to the metric at the bottom of the screen. It's a surprisingly stable metric when you kind of look at it. 64% of annual targets are out of date within 4 to 6 months. And if you kind of put context and think about it, of like how much effort you went into developing your plans, maintaining your spreadsheets, the back and forth between your budget owners and pushing that data out within the organization, and how short of time that this information can be no longer relevant. But if you were in a centralized system where you're easy to keep this data up to date, you're not waiting for the information. So you're kind of going from reacting to being able to have data at your fingertips. Where that takes you is giving you a budget that you can lock down and then have an active plan out there that you're managing in real time. And making decisions and having conversations as they're actually happening versus trying to collect all this data, get it together, make these decisions, and all that lead time that takes you to get to that point. So being in front of that 64% is being agile within your business. So we want to take a moment because we're interested to see how often do your department managers see updated comparisons between business results and the plan? Is it continually happening within the planning system? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? Or is it some other cycle? And Brian, I'd be interested to see what you're seeing in the marketplace.
Yes, this is a constant item that we see with our prospects and clients with regard to how are they able to absorb and provide the information to the organization and be able to do that cycle. So like Kristi had mentioned, everybody's very focused on getting that annual budget out there. But in order to really stay attuned to the business, hold people accountable, identify what the trends are, and be able to manifest change, it's very important to not just be able to put a budget out, but also create that forecasting cycle to allow the business to provide the latest estimates, the latest updates to what they're seeing. And I think you've probably seen that as well, Kristi, in terms of the challenges they have, especially if you're on a platform such as spreadsheets.
Beautiful. All right, so let's go take a peek at these results.
Oh,
so it looks like oh, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, monthly, that's very good. A lot of organizations look to aspire to do that. It can be challenging, though, I'm sure, as most people know, getting to that monthly cycle. But it's great to see that there's a lot happening and trending in that direction.
Beautiful. So let's talk about management insight solutions. So as many of you are aware, collecting and utilizing the appropriate data to gain valuable insights to measure the health of a business is crucial to making informed decisions in a timely manner. While everyone gets why this is important, there is a big discrepancy between the desire to capture and utilize data effectively in the business and what is actually happening within the business. Many firms have taken a siloed approach to this area, and it really shows in a fragmentation and the value of each of these efforts being provided to the business. So looking at these numbers, what do they say? So 83% of CEOs want their organization to be driven by data, but only 30% actually feel like they're in a organization that is driven by data, which is a huge disconnect when you really kind of look at those two numbers in comparison. So if you go through the time and the resources to like move away from spreadsheets and go into an automated system, what does that look like when you pull the organization to compare together and have a comprehensive and continuous planning process in the same system? And what is the full impact overall? Because when you go back to each of these touch points and related areas around them, allowing the team to update their plan in real time and getting you into that current state, you send out, instead of having these spreadsheets that you send out independently and then trying to get them together, and maybe they're having conversations. And again, we're talking about time here, is by the time you get it back, you might not be able to have these conversations with those budget owners. And so you're not able to have a timely overall process to consolidate it, to start making decisions based on it, because you're spending more time collecting the data than putting it together as one. So what you're seeing here is you're able to start having the process and guiding the decisions, and then each of these departments, as you pull it together, you're getting a comprehensive look at the bottom line results as it comes out. So they're kind of working in tandem together in their individual pieces, and then able to kind of get it together on the same timeline and seeing real-time results. So a couple things that's going to happen. Instead of delaying the process again through the manual process, you're not waiting for the budget and the forecasting cycle to be completed, because it's continually happening. And because if there is a delay, the delay will ultimately impact your supply chain as well. And so you really want to get out in front of and how to move this forward. This is really being a data-driven organization and how it drives agility within the organization. The one area then feeds into the next area, and then you have the comprehensive plan that you're continuously updating. But by the time, it's all remembering the frozen time plan on that. And what I mean by that is it's really looking at, we had a budget, we froze that, it's locked. And now we're able to have a plan that is continually being updated. And what that's giving you is kind of some safeguards on it to say, now I can compare what's happening and compare it to our budget per se. And if there's any variances to budget, then you can course correct. And then you can say like, okay, we're kind of going off of the rails here, but what can we do in real time and decisions can we make now to get us back on track? Because you're no longer having to go through these long processes of getting all this data and spreadsheets back together, consolidate it, make sure all the data aligns, and then try to get a report out of it. This is happening in one time. So kind of going back to the slide here, 83% of CEOs want their organization to be driven by data, while only 30% actually feel like they are driven by data. And being part of a data-driven organization doesn't mean you have to have a whole bunch of details at your fingertips. What it means is your overarching plan that represents a business strategy and getting that in front of your decision makers at a time that they can make a decision versus being reactive to the data. And that's all what that means. So if you're on spreadsheets, it just delays or puts the process at risk. All right. So the thing that I kind of want to say here is we do work a lot with implementing Workday Adaptive Planning. Adaptive is a solution that allows business users to really own and operate without having to have a lot of tactical skills or even have their IT drive the process. It is centered on the business users and allowing the team to plan and do what-if scenarios, budget to actual reporting, and summary of key results. All right, Brian, I'm going to hand this over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Kristi. All right. I'm going to do a quick demo here for everybody of adaptive planning. So bear with me here as I transition my screen. And Kristi, just let me know when that comes up for you.
Beautiful. And I can see it now. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. So what you're seeing here, Workday Adaptive Planning, very handy tool in terms of having a lot of those capabilities that Kristi had mentioned and alluded to earlier with regard to some of the challenges that we see, right? So having your actuals data embedded into the tool, into the process more real time. So always having that information at your fingertips, having a structured format, allowing users to interact with the data in a very meaningful way. One of the things that's probably resonating with some of you as you're looking at my screen here is this looks very much like a spreadsheet. But in fact, it is a tool set that allows for a more concise and a more structured way of managing the data so that people aren't as keen to break some of those formulas. I'm sure some people have had that issues in the past where people are changing things around and they get these cell errors and all the rest of it. So having the structure here, what you're seeing is some P&L data. So users, the finance people, operational people, they can come into the tool here and they can make their adjustments and their edits. Now, perhaps some of the budgeting is done by entry. So certain accounts, maybe we want insights from the organization. Where you're seeing those little blue triangles on my screen, there's calculations that are sitting behind that. That's doing a lot of automation as well. So sometimes what we see is hybrid methodologies with regard to how do we build up our, our operational expenses and that sort of thing. So another tab here, same sort of data, but instead of the P&L side of things, what you're seeing is balance sheet related data. A lot of clients aspire to, usually start with income statement side planning. And then naturally what follows after that is getting closer to cash. So to get to cash, a lot of times what we're seeing is people looking to plan their accounts receivables in a meaningful way, perhaps using certain metrics like day sales outstanding, using your average daily sales. Perhaps there's a little bit of trail on revenue to achieve that receivable balance. And then similarly, but opposite would be the accounts payable. And what we can do there is get to cash forecasting. So it creates a more structured process, a little bit easier to navigate, manage, and have security around as well. So creating budgets, that's not really hard to do here in the system. If we wanted to do a new what if analysis, very easy to do, very easy to spin up new versions. And again, data made available to your fingertips to people at the right levels. So in my demo environment here, you might be in a single entity organization, it might be multi-entity, there's probably different departments within the organization, and each of these can be catered to the appropriate audience that would either need to interact or see that data. And really where that ends up manifesting is on a report like you're seeing here. This is a expense variance report, and ultimately creating accountability around the numbers that the organization is providing is where we see success with a lot of our clients. And just to tease a little bit for an upcoming demo or presentation that we're looking to have is on personnel planning. So this is just a quick look at what that sheet looks like. But here we're able to create a roster of people and create assumptions and calculations that make the process of putting in the people plan easier and have that forecasted into the future. So more to come on that. So what I'm going to do here is transition back. Value-based approach. So quickly want to just cover a few more items here. So automating for higher value activities. We've alluded to it earlier. So what you're seeing in the middle of the screen there, that current state, that's where we're seeing a lot of prospects and clients. They kind of spending 80% of their time wrangling data, extracting it out of their systems, trying to manage it in a way that's conducive to the organization, building controls around it as best they can. And then what they're doing is spending maybe about 20% of their time actually doing the business insights and analysis, where the desired state for a lot of organizations is going to be spending a lot less time doing that tactical report building type stuff and really spending more of your time evaluating what the results of that would be. And what we consider finding solutions when people are struggling with spreadsheets. You're spending hours and hours pulling data together, information together, lacking timely insights. Can't tell you how many people we've talked to that have said that reporting takes a couple weeks to put together. I think the help is on the way if you're looking to enhance that process. So high-performing organizations, they have a plan, they perform, their people are part of that process, and really these types of tools help the communication. So instead of just emails and off-to-the-side spreadsheets, you really want to develop a platform that's going to enable the efficiencies that you're looking for. And ultimately what that brings you to is instead of having to wait for the next month just to kind of do post-mortem what has happened, you're better able to answer the question, what is happening? And there's a big difference there. And then in addition to that, what this can allow you to do as well is move from going to that annual cycle, perhaps if some of you are still doing that, to more of a rolling forecast where you're just continuously building on your plan and it's ongoing and it's easy to manage. So in conclusion, benefits of planning and reporting, it's very powerful in terms of rolling forecast capabilities, a lot of efficiencies with regard to the budgeting process, eliminating some of the complexity there, a lot of automation around consolidations, integrating the data. Very easy to build reports, manipulate reports, ad hoc reports, all that type of stuff. And then building out key metrics to your organization that are critical to how your business operates. So continuous engagement, moving to a platform that enables this type of stuff allows for responsiveness, adaptability, collaboration. When you have collaboration, you're empowering people in the organization to be better stewards of their data, to make the decisions to really affect the bottom line and keep things moving forward in the direction that leadership is looking to go. So ultimately, manage that control feature. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for joining our webinar today. Kristi and I really appreciate your attendance. We'd love to help. We'd love to have that conversation. So if it's something that you'd like to do, please reach out and yeah, more to come. I'll switch over to you, Chad.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you, Brian and Kristi, for a great presentation today. If we didn't have time to answer your questions, we'll do our best to follow up with you after the webcast. Here's a link to an online survey where you can provide feedback for today's presentation. Please take a moment to complete this as your survey feedback is very important to us. We thank you for joining us today and hope you'll join us again next time.